Boom. What's going on, party people? How's everybody living? Hope everybody's doing fantastic. Listen, I want to talk to you as we wrap up this series of pornography. I really want to look at the applicable ways that we can assess to understand and overcome pornography. Because we've talked about so much, right? We've talked about the damages to our bodies, to ourselves, to relationships. We've talked about what Jesus has to say. We've talked about all these things, right? But it would be so messed up if we walked out of this series without looking at anything that can help us, that we can do, that we can set in place, that we can actually partake in, that would help us overcome this addiction of pornography. Okay, so I'm going to share you a little bit of what I've researched with some things that research has shown us. But then I'm going to share with you some things that that has helped me and that has helped others that I've given a little bit of some help and advice to in return of overcoming pornography. And listen, don't let this just be the only resource. I definitely encourage you to do your research. Do your research on some applicable ways to help you overcome if these may not suit you. But these are some things that help me, that I know have helped others, and I believe can help you too. Okay, so the first two that I want to share with you was from research, and the first one is mindfulness. Okay, we need to be mindful. All right. So what I mean by being mindful is understanding where the peak is, right? Where is or when is the attraction, the sexual arousals at? Where are they the highest, right? When are they at their highest? Okay, I'm scrambling on my words. What I'm sharing with you is we need to understand the time of day, the time of night, when these sexual arousals are at its peak. Okay, be mindful. Is it at night? Is it when you're alone? Is it when no one's at the house? Is it when no one's at the crib? Right? Are you at your highest when you are looking through social media, scrolling through your social medias at a certain time of night? Right? Is it at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 8 p.m., 7 p.m.? Is it early in the morning? Right? When you wake up? Maybe that's something for you, right? You're one that did that. You're in the routine of doing it early in the morning, right? Is that something that so just being mindful? Where is this sensation at its peak? When is it at its peak, right? And then when we're mindful of these things, okay, now we're able to take part in seeing, okay, what is it that we can do to put in place? Okay, so if you're one of those people who you get really aroused and it's at its highest when you're on social media at a certain time of night, okay, so we should put something. Listen, if you have an iPhone, okay, this is something that I've helped others do. I did myself, right? If you have an iPhone, right, you can put something where it's a downtime. Okay, there's a section in your settings where you can go to the screen time and you can click on downtime. Right. Matter of fact, I'll go to it with you. Right. So you go to your settings and you have underneath do not disturb. It says screen time. OK, so you click that and then you have something where it reads downtime, app limits, communication limits, always allowed, content and privacy restrictions. OK, so all of these have a small description underneath each of them. And so what we'll do is we'll go to downtime. We'll click downtime and we'll turn it on. OK, and set it for every day. Okay, don't set it for customized days, set it for every day. Okay, and then you have a from and to section where it has a time limit, right? From 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., for something to something, right? So this is where you have the opportunity to set a time limit. Okay, what is the time frame that your arousals are its highest? Okay, so this is where you are going to set it from that time period. And you're not going to you're not going to have access to these apps until the next morning. Okay. When you wake up, get ready for school, get ready for work, whatever the case may be. Okay. No, this doesn't cut off your messaging and your phone calls for emergencies and things like that. But we're talking about other apps, right? Your Snapchats, your Twitters, your Instagrams. Maybe you have a photo vault or anything like that, right? That you probably need to get rid of, right? The photo vault you just need to rid of. You're just being straight up. You got to delete that. But this will be something that you can set to where it'll have a downtime and you won't be able to access these apps as long as the downtime is on and active for the time being of when you set it to when it ends. OK, now this takes discipline because, as we've mentioned, listen, this is something that you have to want. So you may have that desire, you may have that want, you may have that itch to go onto that website or go onto that app or scroll through Twitter, look through hashtags or whatever it might be. And you're going to look at that and it's going to have a time limit thing, right? Where it's going to let you know, hey, this is on a time limit. So you're going to be halted to make a decision and know that if you surpass that, right? If you click ignore, if you click turn off, that's just saying you don't want it as much as you're saying you do. Okay, so this is where it's going to help you be like, hey, let's pause. It's going to cause you to pause, cause you to think, cause you to really think, hey, maybe this is something that I shouldn't do, and go on about your night, get some rest, and things like that. Okay, so just be mindful. Okay, this is the first one, mindfulness. Understand when it's at its peak and set some boundaries, set some guidelines, set some things that you can place in order on your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, whatever technological device you may use. Set some level of time limit where you cannot access certain apps and certain things past a certain time. Okay, yes, you're going to have that drive. You're going to have that struggle. You're going to still probably want to desire to get on porn and watch things. But understand that this is where you must make the decision. Do I really want it? Okay, and if you really want it, you are not going to allow those small moments to dictate the rest of your actions towards that website or app. Okay, so be mindful. Secondly, it's reframing. Okay, reframing the mind. And what I mean by reframing is no longer looking at it as a threat, but looking at it as a challenge. Okay, you looking at this idea of removing yourself from apps and social media and cutting things off and cleaning out your social medias and ridding of things seems like a challenge. And it is a challenge because it's challenging your comfort zone. It's challenging what you're used to. It's challenging your happiness, your pleasure, your enjoyment, what you get out of it. This is a challenge, but you must look at it as a challenge because that's the only way that you're going to be more willing to do it. Okay, if you look at it as a threat, all you're going to do is run. Okay, anything that you look at as a threat, you're more on the defensive anchor than you are willing to approach it and encounter it. Okay, so if you look at it as a threat, it's not going to be any good. So approach it as a challenge, right? Approach it as a healthy, good challenge that you need and that you can overcome. Okay, so we have mindfulness and reframing of the mind. All right, now I want to share with you some things that I've shared with others. One of them actually being the downtime screen that I shared, right? If that was helpful for you, there it is, right? Go back, rewind it, re-listen to that again. There's that time, that downtime from your settings on your Apple iPhone. And listen, if you don't have an Apple iPhone, do some research on where it is on your phone that you have access to, that you can access something that'll limit the access or limit the time that you have available to your apps. But if you don't have anything like that, I would also suggest possibly hiding your phone somewhere for the night. Have someone take your phone for the night. I mean, I don't know, maybe you're a kid watching this. I mean, adults, it might be a little harder, right? Jobs, work, things like that. But if you are a child, if you are a teenager, if you're in high school, maybe even college, right? Something like this, give your phone to a trusted person who will keep it overnight where you aren't able to access it, or whatever device you use to access pornography images and videos. I would give that device to a trusted friend. They don't have to know it's on there, right? I know you don't want to feel embarrassed any more than you might already be. But give that to a trusted friend, and don't get access to that till the next morning, right? Maybe some other things that might help along the way with that. I also encourage you, right? I'm going to a worship playlist. Okay. I definitely encourage that you have a worship playlist to access to. I will link a worship playlist in the description below where you can have that at your disposal, because it's really hard to do things and have that on your mind when you are worshiping. Okay. So have access to a worship playlist. Be willing to listen to that, give a listen to them, to take your mind off of those distractions and off of those things that are causing cloudiness in your mind, of the pornography images, the desire to want to watch porn, to engage in any kind of pornography and sexual immoralities and things like that. Okay. And thirdly, outside of that, I do also want you to question the reasoning, right? I really want you to question why it is that you feel the way you do towards, right, your sensation and your drive for the pornography, okay? Because as we've discussed, it's a root issue. It's a heart issue, right? And it's something that you must address inwardly before you do outwardly. So although we know that the underlying discussion of porn, the underlying condition rather, is lust, we do also see that some results of pornography can come from other places and other areas of our lives too. Okay. So maybe you face some rejection. Maybe you face some disappointment, some depression. Maybe there's some things that you have dealt with that others don't know, that you never really truly expressed how you felt about them. And so to hide those feelings, to hide those emotions, to hide the pain you feel, to hide the confusion you feel, to hide anything of that sort, you've turned to pornography that has masked it for the little amount of pleasure that you've been getting from it. Okay. So this is where we need to address those issues head on. We need to look at them head on, and we need to address them, right? We just need to challenge them. I told you it's going to be a challenge, but you need to step up to the plate if you really want to overcome this, because like I said, it's something that you must want. So you have to challenge these things, really get to the bottom of understanding why it is that you're feeling this way, and why or how did you get here? Okay. What were some things that happened in your life at an earlier stage, an earlier portion of your day? What is something that took place that you are looking to pornography as a method to run from the actual issue in your heart and in your mind? Okay. So we really need to confront these things, address these things, face them head on, so we can get a grasp on what it really is, what the issue really is, and purpose to put something in place where we can actually confront these things and address them, so they're not continuing to hinder us from moving in the right direction. Okay. I really want you to understand, okay, from this entire conversation, this is really what I really want you to understand, as we've mentioned before, but I'll mention again. It is not the attraction, but it is the action. What do you do with the attraction at hand? Okay. You're going to still struggle. You're still going to have those times and moments and nights and days where you're contemplating watching pornography, and you're going to have those days where you're thinking on some things and you're almost wanting to get into it right then, right there. And you might think you might be able to save it for later and contemplate. It's still going to be a struggle. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight. Okay. But I want you to understand that it is not the attraction. It's what you do with it. Okay. And what you do with it will determine the result. Okay. If it's which results in ultimately sin, right? If you walk away from it and you contemplate it and you make the decision, I'm good, you're good. Right. But if you end up taking that attraction and that feeling and that emotion and you act on it, right, causing you to go back to pornography, causing you to go back to the bed, causing you to go back to those things that are outside of marriage, sex outside of marriage, premarital, heterosexual, homosexual. This applies everywhere. It is not the attraction. It is the action. God knows, right, that the people that you might be attracted to look good. He does. He created them. He's the creator. Okay. But it's what you do with the action. Okay, we all have attractions that we are not proud of, that we should not have, but it is up to you to decide on the action that you do with that attraction. And with pornography, stay away from it. Put up blockers on websites, put time limits on phones, on apps, on accesses. Do what we need to do to help us further the process of overcoming these things. I'm not promising you that you won't struggle. I'm not promising that you still won't have the desire, but I am promising you, I can confidently tell you this, that if you keep your focus on purposing to be better, wanting it, and then furthermore, as we said, none of this matters if you don't include Jesus. So if you focus in on Jesus, continue to grow with Jesus and have a relationship with Jesus, then you are going to overcome. You're going to overcome. I have faith you're going to overcome. Why do I have faith? Because Jesus helped me. And I know that if he helped me, he can surely help you. You just got to welcome him into the situation and let him transform you day in and day out. So I thank you so much for tuning in to this episode and the wrapping up of this series. And I hope and pray that this was of benefit to you and to those around you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to see you in our next conversation. But as always, until then, peace.